Welcome to Students Groups! Hey guys, my name is Owen Smith, I'm a junior.
My name is Alicia DeLeonvas and I'm a sophomore.
Whether you logged on with us last week to hear the message or you just randomly found us on YouTube, we're really glad you're here.
This is our second video of our series Family Matters, and we're talking about our families. We're with them all the time, so whether we like it or not. And so we're going to talk about how we interact and love our families.
Tonight, our speaker is none other than our amazing Abby and the student pastor, Chase Boyer.
Where are you, Chase? Chase?
Hey buddy, are you back there?
No, that's not thinking anymore. I was hiding behind the board.
Was that a Star Wars reference?
Behind the board.
You were
Star
there?
Trek.
Star Trek.
Star Trek.
Okay then, I guess. Weirdo.
It was Battlestar Galactica.
You're a Trekkie?
I have a Trek bike.
How do I, okay, never mind. Alicia, just go.
We have a game for you. It's a classic game called
Pictionary. Our game is called Pictionary, but there's a slight catch. Like all things fun, we are all on our own team.
Ooh,
Exactly.
Okay.
So we're each going to be blindfolded at a time, not all at the same time, because that would be crazy.
Just a little.
And
Sure.
we're going to have something to draw. Whoever guesses it first gets 2 points, and the drawer will get 1 point.
Okay.
And the other person gets 0 because they're losers.
That's gonna be you, by the way.
Okay,
Just
sure.
Wow. Shots fired.
Just want to let that
I should leave.
be known.
No? No?
No?
Okay.
Maybe?
So we'll play the game.
Let's play the game then.
I brought a blindfold.
You did?
Yeah.
So,
Do you guys not have
should I like tie it around my face?
It's a kiddie pool. We'll just put it over our head.
So how do I
fine.
tie that around my head?
You don't. You just put it over.
Yeah.
Like
No,
a
I don't tie
Like a
it.
hood. Like this.
Where'd Chase go?
Here we go. Let's guess.
It's a rectangle, a swimming pool, a tennis court, a
Domino.
Okay, here we go. Axis. It's a cross. It's a star. Asterisk. This looks like some
Snowflake.
Weird... Oh. Okay.
Hey, that worked really
Let's
well!
Go!
Okay.
Okay, where's my board? There's my board.
I feel like you can see.
I can't. There's.
C.
There's. Yeah.
Cat.
Is
Is this a robot?
Can the camera see what's
Is it a
happening?
robot?
I really don't know how to
Is
write
it
this.
an angelic robot?
An alien?
Angel bot.
The robot. It's a
Maybe I
crab
can do
robot.
this.
Oh, a chimney. Oh, a church.
Yeah, and then.
Is it Jesus? Yeah, mountain students.
You keep drawing this big
Echo?
giant square.
Collide.
And no one knows what that means, Owen.
And then.
Chase?
Yes! Yes! Let's go!
Oh my
Let's
goodness.
go! Yes! Let's go!
Yes!
How?
That was me?
I was trying to draw a
How is this me?
Ow! Okay. That was so much fun, guys. That was
something.
just
That was
That
something.
was interesting.
We learned
great.
a lot about you, Owen.
Yeah, I guess we did. Chase, we're kicking you off screen, and we'll give you a nice
Bye.
introduction.
Go in.
So go away, because you
You're
made
gonna
me
actually
lose.
be nice to me.
No, not
You're gonna
really.
actually be nice to me.
Tonight we will be continuing our series Family Matters as Chase talks about how every type of family matters. Get it? Family matters.
That was great. That was great. Honestly, that was fantastic. Let's hop in, Chase. Please take it away.
I grew up like most of you with some really close friends. And what is the thing that ultimately happens in your friendship? The thing that solidifies your relationship? Well, in the late 90s, it was not going on Instagram or Snapchat streaks. It was going over to your friend's house. You knew that you were in when you spent the night at someone's house. Now, for what it's worth, my house was usually the place of interest when it came to staying the night. My parents were pretty chill. We always had decent food. My friend Casey would always just destroy like those little pre-packaged fruit cups. I don't know if any of you all get those, but he would crush them. But of course, we always had the best game systems. The N64, the PS2 reigned supreme in the Boyer household. But there was another reason why I always had people over to my house, or I would at least always try to ask, do any of your families act differently when your friends are around? What I mean is, my home life kind of sucked. I spent most of my time at home, either in my room or maybe nose deep into a video game or a computer, just trying to get away from the stress and the trauma. There's always arguing, complaining, passive aggression, anger. There's no patience in my home, yelling, fighting, resentment, all just in the four walls of my house. But when my friends came over, those characteristics would just magically disappear. They would barely lift their head out of their evil caves, and it was just a time of joy. I would often go to friends' houses as well, and then many times for the same reasons that I listed above, to avoid the tension. But I don't know if you do this as well, but I saw my friends' families and saw how they interacted with each other. I knew from early on, right, that my family wasn't good, but I also thought that my family was normal. But what I learned through being at my friends' houses is that my family was not normal. I saw other families handle conflict and discipline, miscommunications. And I thought to myself, this is how a family should look. Every one of us could probably go around and tell our version of a dysfunctional family story. We all have one. Because in one way or another, every family is fractured. You know, maybe there's a lot of tension. You feel constant tension with your family. You don't slam doors, you don't yell, but you feel the anxiety. You feel it when your parents talk about money or their jobs. You feel it around your brother or your stepsister. You feel it when certain subjects are coming up in the conversation because they shouldn't cause conflict, but they do. You know what I mean? And it makes your house feel like a pretty stressful place to live. I used to call this tension like the calm before a potential storm. And I think many of you know what that means. And for some of you, maybe you've discovered that your family lives with secrets that you never really saw when you were younger. Now that you're a little older, you're starting to understand. Or maybe you discovered some things that you wish you never did about a relationship, about a legal problem, or a bad decision that someone in your family has made. And now because of the secrets, it's to wonder if you can trust your family. You know, growing up in a very rural area of Northeast Tennessee, my family was trying to pull itself out of poverty, but I learned so much later in my life about the secrets they kept, about the jail time in prison, the affairs, the drugs. There's so many things that proved to be so painful. Or, you know, for a lot of you, your family has experienced some kind of fracture at home. Maybe it was a divorce between your parents or a remarriage that also ended up in divorce. You thought that you would get through the drama, things would be fine, but they're not. There's no new normal with your family. And now you wonder if family relationships are really worth the effort when they can possibly just go away. My Advent peeps know all about this, but when I was like 2 or 3 weeks into living in Maryland about 10 years ago, my parents decided to split. And I mean, it was a long time coming, but I'll never forget that first Thanksgiving back home, in my childhood room, and my dad is not there. I'll never forget the feelings that I had. You know, regardless of your family story, it's important to remember that every family is fractured. And there's no pain like family pain. I think a lot of us know deep down that family should be better. It should be happier. It should be more forgiving, more patient, accepting. But in our minds, most of us have an ideal family. It's the one we wish we had. But we don't have an ideal family. We have a real family. And the distance between our ideal family and our real family can cause a lot of pain. And that's typically when we respond in one of two ways. We either count out our family or we count out ourselves. Because of that, we like to think that our tensions and our secrets and our fractures are written in a permanent marker, while you and your family are written in a dry erase marker. Easy to be counted out. And maybe you count out your family because after your parents divorced, you stopped trusting your mom or your dad. You lost respect for their authority, so you stopped respecting them. Or you decide that your stepmom isn't a good role model, so you're not going to listen to her. You decide to shut out one of your siblings because of something that they did. Whatever the reason, we use our family members' mistakes as a reason or excuse to not listen to them or to include them in our lives. We say things like, I don't have to listen to you or be in a relationship with you because of what you did or what you didn't do for me. Or we can count out ourselves, right? Maybe we don't say it out loud, but we give up on our family, so we isolate ourselves. We stay in our rooms when we're home. We think, I'm done with my dad not showing up. I'm done with my mom for not listening. My family feels like a bunch of hypocrites, so I'm done. I'm going to count down the days until I'm out of this house. I never have to come back. All of us have probably felt the pull of wanting to pull away from our family. But for most of us, we probably know it's not the best idea. But what's the alternative? What else are we supposed to do? Shouldn't our parents be the ones that are trying to fix this and not us? But what if I told you there's probably one idea that you may have never considered that can change the way you see your family forever? And that's what we're going to talk about in this episode. Okay, I've got to change tone here. This got super sad. Okay, here we go. So, here's the good news. God has a long history of working with dysfunctional families. I mean, in the story of Cain and Abel, Cain is so jealous of Abel, he just decides to kill him. He just offs him in a field. Done. No negotiation. Just dead. In a field. David is best friends with the son of Saul, who is trying to kill him. Solomon's kids try to overthrow the government that he currently reigns over. Oh, and don't forget Abraham telling Pharaoh that his wife is actually his sister. And well, the ramifications of that you can talk about with your parents. But here is the one point I'm trying to make. God never writes off a family. One of the best and most famous people in the Bible is a guy named Abraham. God promised Abraham that his family would be a great nation. His descendants would form bigger than the numbers of stars in the sky and the sand on the shore. And Jesus would come from this family line. But before Jesus, before the great nation, Abraham had to start somewhere. So he and Sarah had a son named Isaac. And then Isaac eventually had two sons, Esau and Jacob. And so the family drama began. Jacob and Esau could not have been any more different. Esau was the older brother, the hunter, the warrior, the man of action, super hairy, kind of weird, but that's a detail that we have. So he's super hairy. Jacob, on the other hand, was more of an artiste. He was a thinker, a poet. He was also a little bit of a liar and a con artist. So the stage was set for some good old-fashioned family tension. Shoot, I'll tell you what, that sounds great. As the oldest brother, Esau was guaranteed to inherit what was called a birthright. Now, this is super old school. According to the customs of the time, he would receive special privileges that the other children wouldn't get. He would receive double the amount of money. He would become the leader of the entire family when the father died. And maybe even the biggest deal of all, he would get what's called a blessing from his father, which also meant that he would be blessed by God himself. So, needless to say, birthrights were kind of a big deal. So one day, Esau was out hunting, and he arrived home. He was hungry. It's that moment of hungry that when you're ready to crush an entire large pizza by yourself. I'll call that like a Saturday, like it's Saturday afternoon. He comes home, he smells Jacob's cooking. He asks his little bro for a bowl of stew. Which, I mean, seriously, stew? Stew? Of all things, people, get it together. Soup is flavored hot water. Don't fall for the lie. But that is when things go sideways, because check out the account that's written in Genesis chapter 25. Once Jacob was cooking some stew, seriously, stew. Esau came in from the open country, famished. He said to Jacob, "Quick, let me have some of that stew. I'm famished." Kind of alliterative, a little repetitive. Jacob replied, "First, sell me your birthright." Look, I'm about to die, Esau said. What good is a birthright to me? So Jacob said, swear it to me. So he swore an oath, selling his birthright to Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau some bread and some stew. He ate and drank. He got up from his place and left. So Esau despised his birthright. Boom. Birthright gone. Fast forward to when Isaac was dying. Jacob did in fact get the blessing. The blessing that was meant for Esau. And how it happened was kind of hilarious. See, Esau was a very hairy dude. And if you think about it for 2 seconds, a hunter type, large hairy dude probably reeks, right? And because Isaac could no longer see, Jacob dressed up in the smells of Esau and then convinces Isaac to give him the blessing. In response, Esau was so bitter and angry, he decided that his only course of action would be to kill his brother, Jacob. Jacob learns this and he flees. He runs away. This is family drama at a level that I have never seen. Because despite all of that, don't miss this. Jesus came from this heritage. God knew their mess, saw how fractured they were, but he didn't run away from them. He used them anyway. Not only did God use this family, the book of Hebrews in the New Testament records the story of Jacob and Esau thousands of years later as a celebration of faith. Their story is part of the lineage of people and families of God used to show us that his kingdom is like. Here it is in Hebrews chapter 11, it says this: by faith, Isaac blessed Jacob and Esau in regard to their future. Here's what's amazing about this. The writer of Hebrews is obviously not celebrating the dysfunction. They aren't being held up as a role model to follow, full of lying, deceit, threats of violence. They aren't mentioned as people who give us a model to copy. They are mentioned to draw attention to what God is doing, a God who can take any dysfunction from any family and bring good out of it. There's no family story that can't be rewritten. There's no family situation that God can't ultimately use for good and incredible purposes. From God's perspective, there's no family you can count out, and there's no person in your family that you can count out. God is never done. The story of Jacob and Esau tells us that even in our worst family moments, our family isn't over. Even if we can't see it right now, we can trust that God has a plan. My guess is that if you have asked Jacob and Esau in a moment if God was doing something good, they both would have said no. They never would have imagined that thousands of years later, God would have turned their family story into a story for the ages, a story of redemption and honor and glory. Seeing how God didn't forget about a less than perfect family back then can give us hope that he'll do the same for your family today. In fact, I know this a lot. For a lot of you, the most hopeful thing about this lesson is that no family is a perfect family. But God works anyway. Being imperfect isn't the end of the story, which is a huge relief. You never know what God has in store for you, your parents or step-parents, your siblings, or your entire family. In fact, believing that God can use a fractured family could be one of the greatest acts of faith we have. So my parents were separated for about 5 or 6 years, never divorced, but you know what? They got back together. And then out of this family, my wife and I were able to have a child of our own. This unlocked a whole new level of love that my parents nor I could have thought existed. Our family is healing. My family still drives me insane, but we're healing. And this is the point. My main point for this message is this: that your family matters, even when it's fractured. Everybody who lives in your house is a fractured person. But when they mess up, Don't treat them like it's the end of their story. I spent my 20s wondering what would happen if I engaged my family instead of running away. My faith wasn't big enough then to see what God is always working on, even when it doesn't look like. So don't count them out. So when your stepdad never shows up, don't write him off. When your mom loses her temper, don't write her off forever. Your step siblings are going to drive you insane sometimes, I know, but don't write them off forever. Instead, here's what I want you to try. Choose to believe that God is working anyway. Your family will mess up. They're not perfect. Your siblings will borrow your stuff without asking. Step parents will yell at you. Your dad will disappoint you. No one is going to be perfect. No matter what your family looks like, they aren't going to be perfect. The next time that happens, instead of getting frustrated and running off, have faith that God can somehow use your family anyway. That He's working for your good. That He's with you in the mess. And that He can still use your family for His glory. And secondly, stay connected to your family. Most of us tend to want to avoid our families. I did this. When things get messy, we run away. We stay in our room. I stayed in my room. We put on our headphones. We do this all the time. We keep our eyes glued to a screen. We just ignore everything. But what if, instead, you made the choice to stay connected? What if you try to talk it out with your mom or hang out with your grandparents? Forgive your siblings. Trust me, you don't want to miss out on the opportunity to be a part of an incredible story that God is writing in your family. So this week, try to stay connected when your family is just going a little crazy. You're not the only one to fix it. But if you engage it, the Lord will help you fix. You don't act like it doesn't exist. Okay, super serious moment. Here's the thing. For some of you, I know that staying connected to your family is not the best option. In fact, it's not an option at all, because the stuff that makes your family imperfect is more than just frustrations or annoyances. It's abuse, neglect, alcohol, drugs. It's the kind of stuff that makes staying connected to your family not safe. And if that's you, I want to encourage you to instead connect with someone who is like family. Open up to your students groups leader tonight. A teacher, a neighbor, a coach, any trusted adult in your life who cares about you and knows Jesus. Connect with them about what's happening so they can help you take a great next step. I know that sounds scary, but adults like your students group leader are here for that purpose, to connect you when you need it the most. Redeeming and fixing things that are broken is kind of what God does. He does that best. He takes the dysfunction and He uses it for good, because even though a broken family is never God's plan, taking broken things and pulling good out of them is what God specializes in. So take heart. Have faith in what God can do. What if we all went home after this video and started treating our family like it mattered? Even though it was fractured, even though it's crazy, even though it's wild, what would change if instead of thinking about ourselves and our family as written in dry erase marker, what if we thought about us and our family being written in permanent marker? What if we stopped letting the tensions and the secrets and the fractures feel permanent and instead make us and our families feel permanent? I know it seems impossible. That's why we're going into our students groups right now, to give each other the opportunity to share about what this means for us in our own homes together. And as you head to your group, I want you to think about this question. What's one great thing you hope God will do in your family? Go ahead and head to your groups.
Chase was saying something that really means a lot to me, that God can use fractured family relationships. We may not always see it, but it happens often enough to really take time to celebrate that.
Yeah, every family isn't perfect. It's just kind of like ours here.
Next video, we will continue our series, Family Matters. We hope to see your faces next video.
In small groups, whether it's in person or online, you'll dive more into the message and the scripture that was included. But before we go, did you hear the last video of something called The Hunt?
No, they haven't told us anything about that. Do you know what it is?
I honestly have no clue. I do know one thing, and that's Wednesday, October 28th in our group, so we might learn something about that.
All right. Before you go, make sure to follow, like, and subscribe to this video, and follow us on Instagram at MCC Students.
Also, make sure to follow me at
Bye, guys!